A silence as Fiona dutifully listens to her mother. I know, but she was going to pay for it anyway, regardless of whether I had the day off or not. Her expression turns grim. It's clear her mum is lecturing her that she turns around to take the call outside. The shopkeeper is gazing at the snow falling thinly outside like shredded tea leaves. Her left hand is fiddling at the golden studs in her ears, and she's murmuring something softly to herself. She seems to have completely forgotten I'm standing in front of her, my receipt still between her thumb and fingers. Snow to rain and rain to river. We won't be fooled again. River to sea and sea to sky. What's now will not be then. Sorry, I say? I asked, leaning across to her. Her voice is barely above a whisper. Sky to snow and snow to rain, as bud is leaf and bolt. Rain to river and river to sea, what was then will not be now. Fiona crashes back into the shop, muttering angry, Hey, Roo, pipes up! We ready to go? I just want to buy these. Fiona lays some tarot cards on the table. Look, Game of Thrones tarot. Arya Stark is the death card. The shopkeeper turns her head towards Fiona and smiles. She takes the tarot, bags them, and then pops a stick of incense into her bag. Because she's a new customer, I look from Fee to the shopkeeper and back again. Did anyone else hear her chanting? Did I imagine it? What was then will not be now. I can't believe my mum. Fiona rages the second she hears I have some time off. She thinks free babysitter. It's time. She doesn't even care, and I get straight as and do theatre. Again, she doesn't even care that I get straight as A's, and that should have been A apostrophe S, A's, and do theatre, and look after Joss most afternoons already. I never get relaxed time. It's so unfair. This is the most like a stroppy teenager Fiona ever sounded. It's thrilling to witness. I mean, Joss seems pretty self-sufficient. I offer you. You can just plop him in front of the cartoons and you are so good with him. You know, I don't want to look after people, okay? She storms. I don't want to be a doctor or a nurse or a babysitter or a fucking, I don't know, a live-in carer for the elderly. Okay, Fee, I say, trying to keep my voice calm. I didn't say you had to be. No, you didn't, she says, folding her arms and sighing. Softly, you didn't. Rue. And I looked at each other, and it's clear he doesn't know what's going on either. Are you okay? It's just that's what good little Filipino girls are supposed to do, isn't it? Become a nurse? Watch the other people's kids? I bite my lip. Sorry, I say, searching for something useful to say. I realize that there is nothing useful I can offer, so I just opt for the plainest expression of truth I can find. I don't know what that's like, Fee. She takes a couple of deep breaths. No, I'm sorry. This isn't about you, Maeve. This is my stuff. She smiles at Rue and me. Can you go get a tea? Can we go and get a tea or something? I've got to take a sip of water. As soon as we are back in Brightly, Rue's mother calls. Jesus, she says, looks like it's a day for badly timed mother calls. And then it's his turn to step outside. Me and Fiona sit on the big squashy couch, and I want to ask her more about her life at home. Her family are so charmistic and fun-loving. I completely missed any tension that might be bubbling under the surface, but before I can form the words, I hear something. A voice, a familiar voice. 2 coffees and a muffin for €6, he says, to the cashier, sunny and disarming. Wow, you wouldn't get that kind of value in Dublin, would you? I turn my head around, hoping that I'm mistaken, and there's some other upbeat American in Bridie's. But no, it's Aaron. Aaron, remember the Aaron from the occult group? Aaron holding 2 steaming takeaway cups and a brown bag. I watch him for a moment, fascinated that someone like him could be making small talk over coffee, then go back to Fiona and our shared pot of tea. Maeve, he says, like he's just seen an old family friend. Fancy seeing you here. You and Rue left in such a hurry the other night. Yeah, well, we had places to be. I'm glad, he beams. Date night. There's something mildly sarcastic in the way he says it. Date night, as though Rue and I were 2 children playing restaurant. Fi is fiddling with her phone, barely paying attention. Maybe you could come back, he offers grandly, by yourself this time. I can't take all this folks' friendliness. I could cut right to the point. Sure, except I would rather die. She's straightforward. I love her attitude. It's not the most elegant thing I ever said, but it gets my message across. He raises his eyebrows briefly and then moves on to Fiona. You are Fiona, aren't you? He says. Yes, and? It's clear she doesn't remember Aaron from our day in the basement. That's the shop that they got dressed up in and had fun. But I'm amazed as to why he remembers her and why he knows her name. He studies her for a moment, and then in a voice as soft as honey, or that butter would melt on his tongue, speaks. You are used to people expecting rather a lot from you, aren't you? It is the exact way I heard him talk to the girls at the COB meeting. The affection, the sympathy, and the sense of immediate understanding, and Fiona, who still hasn't put 2 and 2 together, is completely captivated by it. Well, she says, raising a shoulder to her chin, I usually deliver God to have her confidence. I remember briefly the older boyfriend. Is this what she was like with him? Stop it, I say, my teeth gritted. Stop talking to her. Fiona looks at me confused. Maeve, what's going on? You need to learn to be less possessive. Maeve, Aaron says, with a smile. You can't own people. He narrows his eyes at me, his right irises darkening, and you can't throw them away either. And just like that, he leaves. He walks out of Brightly's with his hoodie and his takeaway coffees, like a normal 20-something man. He's a weirdo. I feel like I'm about to vomit. I can understand you, Maeve. You can't throw them away either. Maeve, Fiona says, tapping her shoulder. Maeve, are you okay? You're shaking. Who was that? The light in the cafe suddenly feels too strong, like a fire burning behind my eyeballs. I close them, balling my fists into my sockets, covering my face with the crook of my arm. Who was it, Maeve? I say nothing, my breath coming short. He knows everything. Everything about what happened with Lily, and somehow everything about Fiona. He can see inside people. Whatever dark magic went into creating the housekeeper, a shred of that exists in Aaron too. And if it lives in him, it must live countless in other places. Suddenly the world feels too big, and I'm too small in it. And I'm getting the feeling he is the housekeeper and he is got Lily. I don't know. This is my intuition speaking. I don't mean to spoil it for you. I'm reading the same pages as you when I'm reading it, except for this half chapter, but it's such a long chapter. Okay, so the world is too big and I'm too small for it, she says. Come on, I'm taking you outside. The cold street air hits me in the lungs like a throwing star. Sit down, Fiona orders, pointing at the window ledge. Put your head between your knees and take a deep breath. I don't need. Do it. I do as she says, and as I start to speak, she stops me. Ah, no breath first. I'm going to count your breaths. In 1, 2, 3, out. 1, 2, 3. Keep your head between your legs. That's the girl. In 1, 2, 3. She makes me do this 8 times before she eventually lets me sit up and speak. I do feel better though. Strangely, it must be a nursing tip she learned from her mother and aunts. Now, who was that? And what did you do? This is getting really hot here. Wow. It's her emphasis on the word do that knocks life back into me. She thinks that Aaron is some kind of ex-boyfriend, some guy I went on a date with. Aaron, Fiona, didn't you recognize him? He was part of the moral mob in the basement. She slaps her hand to her forehead. Crap! Okay, sorry. I just assumed he was one of your brother's friends or something. She pauses. Did you tell him about me or something? Why did he know my name? I never mentioned you to him. He has something I don't know. Some kind of power where he's able to see the cracks in people. He knew about Lily. Did you hear that? And he said I threw people away. So what? He has magic too. I don't know, I say again, my voice cracking. Maybe I am going insane. My mouth you've had. Fiona, the mouth you've had, Fiona says, sitting on the window ledge and draping her arm around my shoulder. I wouldn't blame you. Rue is walking back towards us, still on the phone. His jaw is tight and he is clearly immersed in a battle of his own. I'm sure it's not related, Mum. Rue, says his voice tense. It's nothing. Well, no, nothing. Oblivious. But you know what I mean. He hangs up and joins us on the window ledge. Fiona and I shuffle along to fit him in. What was that? I made a mistake of telling my mother about my children I made the mistake of telling my mother about my children of brigade theory from before. She set up a Google alert on them, and it seems the kids are actually leaving home to join them. No, Fi and I say in unison, and then we just saw him. Who? Asked Aaron. I nod. He knew things about us, Rue. He knows about my relationship with Lily, and he knows about... interrupts Fiona, who then stops herself short. He knows about me. The three of us walked to the riverbank, oddly silent. Fiona kicks a rock in the river. Look, she points at the reeds. Frog spawn. She's right. Bubbles of translucent foamy spawn are floating on the water's surface. Hundreds of them, each dotted with a black speck like the cartoon eye. I've never seen so much of it, I say, trying to suppress the urge to poke at it with a stick. No, Maeve, I say to myself. You have a boyfriend now. Resist the urge to act like an 8-year-old. We stare at it for a moment, dumbfounded, and somehow something so calmly natural can exist. How can something like this exist at this time? It's weird, Rue says finally, that the river hasn't frozen over yet. Huh, I reply slowly. How cold does it have to be before that to happen? He shrugs. We go back to staring. Look, Fiona says again, triumphant. A fish. There is a quick gleam of radiant purple as the fish briefly bobs above the surface, and the water and the ducks back and ducks back in again. Jesus, Rue says. Another. We stand and count the fish bobbing. None of us know enough about the fish to know whether it's unusual for them to come so close to the surface in cold weather. They are called rainbow trout, says Fiona, reading from her phone, and they live in Australia and America. Not true, because I used to fish them in Jersey. Okay, they're freshwater fish, and they are manually introduced into freshwater in lakes all over the UK and Europe. Shut up! No, they don't. Look, she says, brandishing her phone. Is this or is this not the fish we just saw? I look at the picture of the fish with the purple stripe on its side. It is. So what are they doing here? Rue asks. The water will be way too cold for them. We stare at the river, and I begin to notice wisps of steam coming off the water's surface, like fog from the mouth of a cold day. Fiona must see it too, because she crouches down, her long black hair almost touching the water. She dips her fingers in, then her entire hand. Jesus Christ, Vi, what are you doing? She swivels around to face us. Her eyes are wide and excited, like an owl's. Guys, it is warm. Wow, who's doing the magic? Is that the white lady, the housekeeper? Or is it Aaron that has the magic? Who knows? We'll find out soon. See you in the next chapter.